Hello everyone, let's review the results of July's 3-card blind main event tournament. This month we had 217 participants, 28 of which were brand new players to the main event. So if you are a new player watching this video right now, thank you for trying the format and I hope to see you playing again in the coming months. Among the 217 submissions, we saw 147 unique decks. If we weigh the cards in these decks by their performance and run them through the Simpsons Diversity Index, we will see that this month was a narrow improvement in diversity compared to the prior month. However, there were some pods that had noticeably lower diversity than usual, which is a subject we will return to later in the video. The 3-card blind diversity grade for this month was a B+. Now on a month-by-month basis, we see different levels of change between metas. The change from last month to this month was a little less than we would usually see. Last month's bans were significant, but didn't completely shake the meta to its core. Heartfire Hero was unbanned for this month, and it was the 4th most popular card, and it was the 2nd most popular deck in combination with Alpine Moon and Hammerheim. The popularity here is to be expected, but the performance of Heartfire Hero and its signature deck were unimpressive. The good news is that this means that it was probably a relatively healthy card to reintroduce into the format. The most popular card this month was a basic Swamp, which was supporting Sarcomancy, Cecil, and Unstoppable Slasher in combination with Dark Ritual. Aside from Heartfire Hero, the most popular non-mana source card this month was Telgelad Stylus. So based on this, it's not going to be surprising that the most popular deck this month was Sarcomancy, Swamp, and Telgelad Stylus. We voted on Sarcomancy to consider it for a ban the previous month, but it didn't quite receive the number of votes it needed to warrant removing it from the format. The popularity and average score of this deck speaks for itself, but we will return to it as we progress through congratulating our winners. Well, you may have not expected to return to this subject so quickly, but in Novice 1 we had a 3-way tie between Aviously, Julian, and Legally Abyssal, who were all playing Sarcomancy, Swamp, and Telgelad Stylus. For new players who are engaging with the content on YouTube or on the website, seeing a powerful strategy survive a ban vote is an opportunity to consider whether anything is going to change that is going to make that strategy less strong the following month. It's plain to see here that if there were changes that impacted the viability of Sarcomancy, they were not significant enough to prevent the deck from dominating at the novice level. In Aspirant 3, our winner was the Ozolith, who was playing Hammerheim, Heartfire Hero, and Lightning Bolt. Clearly the choice to pack single target removal paid off, but I do want to acknowledge that I believe Dismember may have been a better choice than Lightning Bolt. Generally speaking, the ability to bolt somebody in the face in the context of 3-card blind doesn't offer that much utility, and the 4 life lost to Dismember to cast it also doesn't tend to be a make or break situation. However, being able to kill something with 5 toughness could. For example, in the context of this pod, one of the few losses that this deck had was against Darksteel Citadel, Ensoul Artifact, and Mox Sapphire. However, this time around, Lightning Bolt was good enough to take the first place position in the pod. In Aspirant 2, our winner was Monster Dog, who was playing Dreadhorde Invasion, Peat Bog, and Smallpox. This is a familiar but powerful deck. Smallpox is a devastating form of disruption, and Dreadhorde Invasion lets you break parity by having a threat that can play straight through the sacrifice effect. In Aspirant 1, our winner was Soul Rose, who was playing Luminarch Aspirant, Mox Pearl, and Mutavault. This is another familiar and straightforward strategy. There's not much to say here other than creatures that grow are quite good in the format. In Contender 5, we had a tie between Tiago G and Win701. We will start with Win701, who was playing Sarcomancy, Swamp, and Telgelad Stylus. Yup, we are going to be talking about this collection of 3 cards quite a bit this video. Tiago G was playing Alpine Moon, Hammerheim, and Heartfire Hero. This is considered to be the standard Heartfire Hero deck list, and it's the one that got Heartfire Hero banned in the first place. Alpine Moon is definitely a hit or miss card, but in matches against storage lands or depletion lands, it typically represents a free win. In Contender 4, Krungung was playing Kranko, Baron of Tin Street, Mana Crypt, and Mox Ruby. This might be the first time we've ever acknowledged this deck in a video, but it has definitely been on the radar of top players for a very long time. It is an extremely fast deck that can win by its 4th turn. I think this strategy has been slept on by most of the community, but perhaps after seeing this, it will get the respect it deserves. In Contender 3, we had a tie between Circle and Leaf, who were both playing Sarcomancy, Swamp, and Tel'Jallad Stylus. Maybe you're starting to pick up on the pattern here now. In Contender 2, our winner was Minerva Omega, who was playing Living Conundrum, Maze of Ith, and Sand Silos. This is another 3-card blind classic, and it was able to edge out its sibling deck, Angel of Sanctions, Fountain of Cho, and Maze of Ith, which came 2nd place in the same pod. The most relevant difference between how these decks performed was how they performed against each other. Living Conundrum having hexproof makes it immune to Maze of Ith, and it can't be removed by Angel of Sanctions. And from there, the bigger creature wins. In Contender 1, we had a 4-way tie between Aethys, Cookie the Cat, Golden Drakon, and Walthrus, who were all playing Caracas, Meddling Mage, and Mox Sapphire. I think Aethys deserves a special call out here for being Meddling Mage's biggest fan by far. Aethys has played precisely this same deck for the past 19 months straight, and with this win has managed to claim the rank of Exemplar. I mentioned earlier in the video that some pods had worse diversity than others, and this was definitely one of those that was on the worst side. Of note, coming in right behind Meddling Mage was an Elite Spellbinder deck, followed by 3 Mesmeric Fiend, Mox Jet, and Mutavault decks. This seems to indicate that in the context of this month, decks that aim to lock their opponent out of the game on the first turn performed extraordinarily well at higher elos. And just to confirm this, in Exemplar our winner was Icorn, who was playing Crystal Vein, Elite Spellbinder, and Mox Pearl. It is honestly quite impressive how many of these go first win the game decks continue to sculpt the meta even after seeing so many bans targeted at that archetype specifically. But speaking of impressive, this win will make Icorn our champion for the 2nd month in a row with a whopping 1886 ELO rating. And with that, I'd like to congratulate our winners one more time and move on to discussing the cards that will be included in this month's ban vote. Let me begin by explaining that we have decided to take a new approach on how we treat recently unbanned cards in regards to the ban vote. Rather than having to make a tough call about whether or not we should include a recently unbanned card on the ban vote, we have decided to add bonus slots on the ban vote reserved specifically for recently unbanned cards. So you will see Heartfire Hero on this ban vote despite it having a somewhat underwhelming average score. But don't forget, it still managed to claim some pod wins and was the 4th most popular card this month, so don't be too quick to dismiss the card entirely and give it some thought as to whether the card ought to be rebanned or not. Unsurprisingly, the first card that is being included on the actual ban vote is Sarcomancy. Despite the prior month giving players every reason to believe they needed to prepare to deal with this card, the Sarcomancy deck was the most popular deck this month and dominated many pods, indicating that for a lot of players the best strategy was, if you can't beat them, join them. That being said, there was a category of players that did come prepared to play against Sarcomancy. The Sarcomancy deck deploys fast, and it's resistant to most forms of removal, so one of the best ways to gain an edge against the deck is to attack the cards while they're still in the player's hand. That brings us into discussing our next set of cards that will be included on this ban vote. Meddling Mage, Elite Spellbinder, and Mesmeric Fiend all performed alarmingly well and are trying to do very similar things to each other. Each of these decks has their own unique strengths, with Elite Spellbinder being evasive, Mesmeric Fiend being able to bring along Mutavault as a buddy, and Meddling Mage being able to do things like name a card imprinted on Isochron Scepter. But I think seeing all of these decks stacked on top of each other at the top of Contender 1 is a great indication that if one of these decks were to go away, the others would continue to occupy the same niche. We've also chosen to go ahead and include Brain Maggot on this list and bundle it with Mesmeric Fiend because the cards are nearly identical, and the fact that Brain Maggot is an enchantment creature as opposed to just a creature tends to very rarely make a difference. Now, going after so many cards in the same archetype might come off as a little alarming to some of you, but this archetype is truly a Hydra with a seemingly unlimited number of heads, and we've already cut through so many of them. Even if these cards end up on the ban list, there will still be things like Tidehollow Sculler around, as well as the 1-mana black discard spells like Inquisition of Kozilek that will keep this archetype relevant. And the final card being included on the ban vote this month is Maze of Ith. Maze of Ith was originally banned at the end of August of 2024 for pretty similar reasons to why we're discussing the card today. Although I think the card's reintroduction into the format in February of 2025 was a celebrated one, and many folks have had fun with it over the past few months, seeing the card continue to perform very well with some of the same pairings like Angel of Sanctions and Living Conundrum has gotten a little stale. There might be an argument to be made that Living Conundrum and Angel of Sanctions are the problems, but as our second place winner in Exemplar T-Pro 202 demonstrated with Archon of Absolution, Icatian Store, and Maze of Ith, clearly Maze of Ith has potential even outside of the two threats it's been traditionally paired with. And that wraps up the cards that will be included on this month's community ban vote. Thank you to all of those of you who participated for bringing us another awesome month of 3-card blind. Thanks for watching, everyone, and see you soon.